All right. Hello, everyone. This is a pre-recorded video, and we're on week 7 and currently having some technical difficulties. We can't figure out why Zoom won't let anybody in and why it won't let even the host in. So we're going to make do with what's going on. Sometimes when these things pop up, they can be frustrating, especially when we have expectations. And I think over the last 7 weeks, we've been really working on our expectations versus our intentions. And tonight's intention was to teach you all this restorative class, to come to this class. And we'll probably be getting this Friday morning, which is fine. You do this whenever you would like. Always remember that in yoga, what yoga teaches us, especially as veterans, is that it's okay when things don't go the way that we plan, that the world is going to keep moving forward, and everything will be all right. If you see me tonight on the pre-recorded video, stop a couple times and take some sips of my tea. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. That's why I had to cancel Monday's class on the Sun Salutation on Monday. And yeah, so I'm feeling okay, not 100%, but I wanted to teach this restorative class that is good for the health. It's good for the body to allow it that space to heal. We often talk about that yin and that yang, right? That yin or restorative, allowing the body to slow down and rest, especially if we live that lifestyle of the yang, right? That fast pace, sometimes it's good to just let the body chill, let the body be, let the mind be still, just take care of ourselves. Tonight, I have my dog. He's joining me tonight. He can tell I'm sick, so he likes to be close to me. So tonight in our class, we'll need 2 blocks, a bolster, some blankets. And I always recommend, again, if you've been to any of my classes, to always bring whatever gear works for you. So if you need pillows, extra pillows for substitute of the bolster, you need extra blankets. Sometimes in these restorative classes, when we go into our final resting pose in that resting state, putting a blanket over the top of us as well. We'll go ahead and get started, and I will meet you in Shavasana on our back. So we're going to start in Shavasana and we're going to end in Shavasana. So go ahead and lie on your backs in a nice, comfortable seated or lying position. Take up as much space as you need, and we'll get started. So lying on your back, finding that nice connection between your body and the ground underneath you. Taking some nice deep breaths. Starting at the belly, breathing all the way up, letting the belly just release, not holding on to anything. And as you inhale, letting go of that belly, letting the breath rise up through the ribs all the way to the top of the chest. And when you reach the top of your inhalation, slowly exhale through the nose, just as slow as you inhaled. And tonight's class is going to be focusing on our low back our shoulders and our arms. Our low back has been taking a lot of that forward and backward motion through our sun salutations, as does our shoulders when they support our body and our legs as they've been supporting our body in those plank positions, and we're lowering down to the mat into cobra, right? So we're going to be focusing on our arms and our shoulders and our back today, to get us ready for the rest of the sun salutation series. And as you were lying here on your back on your mat, I invite you to just set an intention, right? Set an intention for your practice tonight. Maybe that intention is just to lie here on your mat and create that space that you need to just relax from your stressful and busy day. Maybe that intention is to just flow through each pose, not expecting anything, not anticipating anything that's coming next. And when you find your intention, imagine that intention sitting in the middle of your chest, in the middle of your heart. See if you can breathe deep all the way from the belly up into the heart area or the middle of our chest. Taking a nice big inhale through the nose. And at the top of your breath, sighing it out through the mouth. Letting it go one more time. Inhale through the nose. Sigh it out through the mouth, letting it go. Slowly rolling to one side. And then pressing yourself up into a seated position. At your own pace, find your way to a standing position or a mountain pose that we've been working on. We're not rushing here, so please take your time, and I'll meet you at the top of the mat. We're going to be in mountain pose for just a few minutes. Mountain pose, the standing pose, is a very good grounding exercise. So we'll start at our feet. So we'll just kind of rock back and forth on our feet. Palms can face forward, shoulders drop down away from the ears. Crown of the head or the backs of our heads, almost like someone's pulling the top of our head up towards the sky or the ceiling. We're rocking back and forth. Feet about hip distance apart, almost as though you can fit about 2 fists, a little over 2 fist lengths in between your feet. Just rocking on the heels and the toes. And then when you're ready, coming to a nice neutral position with those feet underneath the hips. knees have a slight bend in them. We don't want to lock our knees out. It cuts off our circulation to our body, and we can pass out. So we want to have a nice slight bend in the knees here. Palms are still facing forward. We're leading with the middle of our chest. Our chest is nice and open. Our shoulders are dropped down away from our ears. The chin is slightly, very slightly tucked towards the chest, and the back of the head is lifted, the crown of that head, so the very top, almost like a string, is pulling you up towards the sky. You can either have a soft gaze or have your eyes closed if that's in your practice. We'll just hold here, feeling the full support of the ground underneath us, feeling gravity press us down into the ground, into our mats. I'm trying so hard not to say earth after working with kids today. If you'd like, you can have a slight smile on your face. Just grateful to be here tonight with you all. Even though we're not here together. Breathing deeply through the belly, up through the ribs, letting the ribs expand all the way to the top of the chest. And slowly exhaling back through the nose, letting the chest fall, the ribs, pulling the ribs in, deflating the belly, inhaling through the belly, letting the belly drop, inhaling through the ribs to the top of the chest, and slowly exhaling back through the nose. Starting at the top of the chest, the ribs, and then the belly. We'll do this 2 more times at our own pace. I'll cue the breath, so inhaling with the belly, ribs, chest, exhaling, chest, ribs, belly. Last one on your own. I'm going to stay quiet for this last one. Your eyes were closed. Go ahead and open the eyes. Wiggle the fingers. And inhale, arms up overhead, reaching through the fingertips. And then exhale, we're going to fold at the waist. We're finding our waistline, maybe using our hands. We're going to fold at our waist and bending forward, leading with our chest. Forward fold. Let the arms hang nice and loose here. Let the head hang loose. And we rock from side to side. We'll be in this pose for this dangling pose for about 2 to 3 minutes. So we're really opening up our low back, our spine, making space in our muscles, allowing the head to hang loose. If you have any kind of low or high blood pressure, this pose may be a little intense. If that's the case, you can gently come out of the pose. Like you can hang out in mountain pose for a minute. Or if it's in your practice, I'm gonna grab my chair. You can use the chair to still get that nice forward fold. You can just let the arms hang at the corner of the chair. Use the chair for support, whatever works in your body. After rocking from side to side, maybe grabbing the elbows. You can either grab the elbows or the biceps. Breathing deeply, having still that slight bend in the knee. I want to lock our knees out. And notice if you're leaning back on the ball on the heel, or you're leaning too far forward on the balls of the feet and the toes. See if you can find that nice balance in between. Where both feet are supporting the body. And as you exhale, seeing if the body can just go a little deeper. Noticing any tightness or tension in the shoulders, in the arms. Next inhale, feeling that support of the feet underneath the hips. Press through the feet as you slowly rise back up to a standing pose. And as you're standing, see if you can stack your spine, your vertebrae, slowly back on top of one another. Just taking your time here, we're not rushing. Coming back to a full standing position. Palms can be facing forward. We'll inhale, reach through our fingertips, arms come up overhead. Here we can interlace our fingers, and then with our pointer fingers or our index fingers, point those fingers towards the sky while keeping your other three fingers interlocked. From here, looking up towards the ceiling, I'm going to turn sideways just in case you can't see me. So reach through those fingertips, really reach, and then maybe engage the core a little bit and have a slight back bend, not too much. If this is too much for you or your neck, you can always put the hands on the hips, reach the chest out away from you, and just look up slightly towards the sky. Exhale our arms back down to our sides. I'm going to turn the face back towards you. Do this one more time, except this time when we raise our arms up overhead in the inhale, we'll wrap our right hand around our left wrist. And then we'll just gently lean over towards the right. Getting a nice full side body stretch here. Leaning into our right foot. Feeling the ribs expand, and then inhaling back up to center, grabbing our right wrist this time with our left hand. Take a nice big inhale, and on the exhale, nice slight bend over to the left this time. Feeling the stretch on the ribs all the way down the side body. Inhaling, coming back up to center. Arms can come back down to the sides. And then at your own pace here, we'll move on to our hands and knees into that tabletop position. This is a very gentle class tonight. Excuse me. It's a very gentle class tonight. We're not doing anything too intense, except maybe the last pose, but that's about it. So in your tabletop, on your hands and knees, we'll have our ankles aligned underneath our shoulders, our knees in line with our hips. And do a couple cat-cows. So our cat-cows will drop our belly, lift the gaze, lift the tailbone. So we're lifting this part of our butt up towards the sky. Pressing through our hands. We're going to exhale. Drop or lift the belly up towards the spine. Press through the hands. Round the spine out. Chin comes to chest. Inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze, lift the tailbone. And exhale, pull the belly in. Chin comes to chest. Pressing through the hands, rounding out top of the back. Inhale, drop the belly, lift the gaze, lift the tailbone. Noticing if you're falling to the outsides of your hands. Exhale, pull the belly in towards the spine. Bring the chest or the chin to chest. Rounding our back. And just do two more here at your own pace. Taking our time. And when you're ready, we'll move into our next pose, our puppy pose. So in our puppy pose, we'll stay in this position with our knees still in line with our hips. And we'll just walk our hands forward, dropping our chest towards the ground. Our forehead can come to the mat. We're bringing the shoulder blades in towards one another or in towards the spine. If this is too much on the shoulders, you can always come into that child's pose. That works for you. If you're looking for something a little bit more intense, you can grab your blocks and space them out about where your hands would probably be, maybe a little closer. So I'd say about a fist width distance apart. And then you can drop the back of the triceps down onto your block. And then bring the hands together. And then just drop the chest towards the mat. It's a little bit more intense on the shoulders. Once you find the correct position for you, We're going to stay here for a few minutes, making sure our knees are still in line with our hips. At any point you begin to feel any tingling sensation, any kind of numbness in the shoulders, why don't you just come out of that pose, just drop down in a child's pose, take care of yourself. Finding our breath again, breathing deeply through our belly, through the ribs, all the way up to the chest. See if we can find any more space in the body. And the point of yin and restorative is not the pain, right? We're not looking for pain. Trying to find this edge is what we call it, where it's not to the point where you're not breathing anymore. It's not uncomfortable. It's a satisfaction. It feels good. Coming out of this pose, we'll press into the palms and we'll gently walk our palms, our hands back up into a tabletop position. And then we'll drop our knees, our hips back towards our feet to that child's pose. Pressing to the hands. Here, if you would like to go into a wide-legged child's pose, by taking the knees out to the edges of the mat, the toes can come in towards the body. Whichever variation you're in, begin to just walk the hands where they're at, right? Walk the hands just slightly over to the right, just slightly. Still keeping our knees, still keeping our child's pose figure, just stretching out our side body. If this is too intense, you can always just stay in that child's pose. If holding the child's pose is too much for your body, you can always grab those pillows, the blankets, bolster, and stack the chest over the top of the bolster here for some extra support in your body. Once you find the position that works for you tonight, we'll hold this for 5 breaths before we come out and move into the other side. Still breathing through our belly, If the hands are still out to the right side, we'll walk our hands back towards the middle, pressing through the tops of the feet and the shins, coming into that tabletop position. We'll tuck the toes, pressing through the hands. We'll lift the hips up towards the sky, downward facing dog. Just pedal out the feet here. So dropping one knee down just ever so slightly while pressing into that other foot. So pressing through that left heel while the right knee is kind of relaxed and kind of bent a little bit. And we'll just walk the feet like that. Almost like you're getting ready to do a mountain climber. Almost like you're going to drive your knee forward. You're just being really gentle about it. Not fast. Noticing if you're putting a lot of weight to the outsides of the hands. When you're ready, come back down onto our hands and knees, letting our butt or our hips drop back towards our feet for that child's pose again. And we'll walk our hands out to the left this time. And on the exhale, on your exhale, noticing if you can go just a little bit deeper when you're ready in your body, no rush. Still pressing through the hands as you're pressing your hips towards the back of your feet. And noticing if you're leaning onto your left leg more, distributing out the weight equally to both legs. As you're getting settled into your pose, whatever variation that we talked about earlier works for you, I'll leave you in silence for the next few breaths for about a minute. I'll bring you back when it's time to move to the next pose. Pressing through the palms of the hands as you walk the hands back to center. Gently walk our hands up back into that tabletop. Maybe do a couple cat-cows or sway the hips from side to side. And slowly lower yourself down onto your belly. Feet extended long behind you. Arms here can either come down to our sides, with our cheek resting on the mat. Or one of my favorite ways to do the reverse corpse pose or reverse resting pose is to fully reach through the tops of my fingertips and reach through my toes, relaxing my forehead on the mat, releasing my low back all the way down through my legs, all the way up through the top part of my spine. Still breathing deeply. Notice as each inhale, as the belly rises, it presses into that low back, giving it support, helping release any low back tension. And I'll leave you in silence for the next few breaths. When you're ready, bring the hands next to the chest. And then we're going to roll onto our backs. So, in whatever way works for you, gently roll onto your back. The feet can be flat on the floor. Knees are bent. And this pose that we're moving into next is something that recently I started using in my own practice that I really enjoy, that I thought we would all try together tonight. So we're going to take our right leg, and our right thigh is going to wrap around onto our left thigh. You can stay here if you have a really, really tight low back and hamstrings and quads. If you'd like to go further, we'll take a nice deep inhale together. And on the exhale, we're going to actually take the legs and pull them towards the body. So we can grab the shins, we can grab the calves, pulling our knees in towards our chest on our exhale. So we'll inhale, exhale, gently pulling in the knees towards the chest. It's called our cow face pose, or a reclined cow face pose. And stretching out our back, our right glute, right butt. We'll hold here for a minute. If at any point you begin to feel tired, holding the legs, you can always rest the legs back down to the mat. We'll be here for a few minutes. If this is too intense for you to hold your feet, you can always grab your blocks or your bolster. You can place the feet on the blocks as well. Bolster may actually work a little bit easier than the blocks, as we're finding what works for our body. Like tonight, I'm not going to be able to hold that pose, and that's okay. I'm going to use my bolster to kind of help rest my left foot, take a little bit of tension off my arms. And again, once you find the position that works for you tonight, I invite you to take 5 deep inhalations and exhales. Nice full body breaths. I'll leave you in silence for the next 3 breaths. When you're ready, you can release the legs without uncrossing them back down to the floor or your mat. Gently uncross the legs. And fully extend the legs down towards the floor. Reach the arms up overhead and reach through the fingertips, reach through the toes. We'll hold here for a few breaths. Bringing awareness to the body and noticing the difference in feeling and sensation from the right side of the body to the left side of the body. Just notice that feeling of your body. Where that sensation might be. And when you're ready, sliding the feet back down, the knees bent, so the feet are flat against the floor, knees are still bent. Move over to the next side. So whatever gear you used on your right side, maybe having that close by. When you're ready, you'll inhale, placing that left thigh over the top of the right. And on your exhale, pulling the knees in towards the chest. That's where you would like to go in your practice tonight. And then we'll hold here for 10 breaths. Getting flattening out the top of the head, maybe rolling it from side to side. Breathing deeply into the belly, relaxing the shoulders down towards the ground or your mat. Noticing anything that may be going on in your body. And as we lie here the next few minutes, breathing in our body, breathing in our space, noticing where the mind wanders. Where does your mind go? So trying to get away from the present moment. Is it thinking about work or things to do? Is it here? Just notice where your mind begins to wander. Don't judge it, just notice it. Oftentimes we are under this impression that yogis and these meditation gurus are this perfect kinds of beings that have mastered quieting the mind. And in reality, being present is not about quieting the mind, but noticing the present moment and where you are and being mindful, being able to bring your awareness to this moment and being mindful as well when your mind does begin to wander and it does begin to go off track. That's mindfulness. It's mindfulness resilience. It's being able to notice those thought patterns. When you're ready, letting go of the legs, moving any gear, or props, or bolsters away from you. We'll gently and slowly take that left leg, that left foot down to meet the right foot. Fully extend the legs down onto the floor. Reach our fingertips up and over our heads, reaching through the fingers, reaching through the toes. So, our next pose is something a little bit different. We've done it once or twice before, but not to this extent. When you're ready, we're going to roll over to one side and come up into a nice seated position. Grabbing a block or a blanket, a bolster. Stay in your seated position for now, and I'll give also a chair option because this can be a little intense, but it is a really, really good stretch to counteract a lot of the pressure we put on our bodies through those sun salutations. So it's called a yogi squat. So after I kind of talk through this really quickly, I'll get us into the pose. But essentially, we're going to take our heels in, toes out. We're going to drop our heels, our hips down towards our heels, taking our hands close together and taking the elbows to the insides of the knees and pressing the knees out. We're going to be here for a few minutes. That's why we have our block or our bolster underneath us for some support. From here, as we're pressing our elbows into our knees, opening up our hips, we'll lengthen through the spine, all the way up to the top of the head. this is a really good pose to counteract a lot of the sun salutations we've been doing, as I mentioned earlier. So coming into a standing position, we'll play around with this. I'm not going to have us hold it for too long. I really want us to build this up over the next couple of weeks. So whatever works for you, maybe it's a bolster, maybe it's a pillow, maybe it's 2 blocks, maybe it's 1 block. Finding what works for you, and please play around with this tonight. So we're going to start in a standing position, so making your way up to a standing position. Go ahead and grab your block or whatever gear that you're going to use. I'll be using a block tonight. And the feet can go out farther than your hips, and your heels are going to come in and the toes are going to come out almost at a 45-degree angle. You'll inhale all the way up through the chest. And as you exhale, you'll drop the hips down towards the ground or towards your piece of gear that you're using. Bringing the hands, the palms of the hands close together. Pressing the knee or the elbows in towards the insides of the knees. Lifting through the crown of the head. Finding what works for you, so play around. If this is too intense, if I can do this with the chair. Again, we can bring heels in, toes out. I got heels in, toes out. I'm sitting down, and then I can just press my knees open here and then lengthen through my spine all the way up through the crown of my head. So finding what works for you. Maybe closing the eyes. Noticing if you're leaning too far forward into the pose. If this is too much strain on the low back, again, maybe stacking blocks or coming into a chair until we can work our way into this pose. So you may not be able to get down to the block yet, or your bolster or 2 blocks. Meet your body where it's at. Again, we're trying to build up that flexibility. So maybe starting at a chair and working your way down to a block. Once you find your position, we'll hold here for 5 breaths. And again, noticing where that mind wanders off to. Is it trying to get away from the present moment, distracting itself? Or is it aligning itself with the body? Is it trying to say, hey, this doesn't feel good, get out of this? Notice where that mind is. On your next breath, placing the hands, if you're on a block or bolster, placing the hands out in front of you. We'll lean into our hands, with our elbows still touching our insides of our knees. And then we'll drop one knee down and then the other. Coming onto our butts. We'll turn and face sideways. We're on our butts with our hands behind us. Our fingertips, if it's comfortable for you, having the fingertips facing, going towards your butt or your glutes. If that's too much strain on the wrist, just whatever works for you. Maybe coming up onto the fingertips with the fingers facing away from you. The feet are flat against the mat. Lifting our chest here, and then just dropping those knees over to the left and then over to the right. All right. So we'll come into our next pose. So our feet, we're still on a seated position. Our feet are in front of us. Excuse me. Two options tonight. Either keeping the feet where they are. You can prop up the hips using your blanket. And then we're going to go into a forward fold. So having the blankets, blocks to kind of support yourself, or maybe a chair to support yourself as you fold forward into this. The other option is having the legs out wide. For myself, I have to grab a blanket, prop myself up on my hips. Legs can come out to wherever they're comfortable, out wide. If you want to keep them close together, that's fine as well. But legs can come out wide, grabbing our blankets, our bolsters, pillows. We can stack them up as high as we can get them because we'll be leaning forward onto them. If this is too much strain on the hip flexors, having a chair nearby to kind of rest the forehead down onto works just as well. All right, so getting into this pose, finding whatever position works for you. We'll lift the spine, toes are flexed, so toes are pulled in towards our shins. We'll inhale nice and tall, and as we exhale, we'll fold forward at the waist. Try not to round the back here. I like to pull my bolster in towards me and kind of give it a nice hug. I find that works best for my body. And for me, I have very tight hip flexors and I cannot go very far in this. Bending at the waist, try not to round the back. And I believe it was week 2. One of the journal prompts was, which yoga pose do I dislike the most? If you ever wonder if yoga teachers also have yoga poses that I don't like, this is mine. This is very uncomfortable, but I try and do it at least twice a week. This is where my body needs to stretch the most and to strengthen. And as you exhale, each exhale, maybe folding forward just a little bit deeper. As you settle into your pose, I'll leave you in silence for the next few breaths. When you're ready, engaging the core so slightly, using the hands to gently press the spine back to neutral. Moving any gear off to the side. If your knees are out wide, gently bring them back in towards one another. If your legs were straight out in front of you and that forward fold, you can keep them there. Place our arms behind us with our fingers facing towards us. Maybe having some blocks nearby to give yourself a little bit of extra height. We'll press our hands into the floor, lift our chest, nice and proud chest away from us, lifting up towards the sky to the staff pose. Crown of the head can come up towards the ceiling. And coming back to neutral, having your blankets, bolsters, your pillows nearby. I'm going to use a bolster for this. We can place our bolster right behind our low back. If you're sitting up on a blanket, you're moving that blanket off to the side. And on your exhale, gently lowering the back down onto the bolster, into the supported fish pose. Nice counter stretch. The spine is supported by our blankets or pillows or bolster. Arms can be nice and relaxed at our side. If having the arms down on the mat is too much intensity in the chest or in the upper shoulders, you can always have those blocks nearby. These things are awesome. Actually, place our forearms onto our blocks to give them just a little bit of height, to take a little bit of pressure off of our chest here. And if this intensity for you is too much, you can always remove the bolster and maybe come down onto a blanket. And if you come down onto a blanket, try placing another blanket underneath the knees. Prop the knees up just a little bit. you begin to feel any kind of tingling sensation, any kind of tightness or spasms, just come out of the pose. Come up onto your butt, your arms at your side, or maybe come into a seated position. When you're ready, coming out of this pose, taking the arms and the hands at your side, using them to press yourself up, moving any gear from behind your low back. We'll lower ourselves down into our final resting pose, Shavasana or corpse pose, but I like to call it resting pose. Taking up as much space as you need. Maybe the feet come together with the knees falling out to the side. Maybe rolling up a blanket, placing the blanket underneath the knees. I know tonight is a special occasion of having to watch this on a later date due to technical difficulties. But please, again, don't skip this pose. It's probably the most important pose of our practice. It's our resting pose. It allows the body to fully feel the effects of our practice. Maybe the feet fall out to the side. Shoulders come away from the ears. Eyes can be closed or in a soft gaze. I'll leave you in silence for a minute before I begin to do our body scan. So finding comfortable position for you, seeing if you can relax the body before the body scan. Begin to relax the top of the head. Relaxing the top of the head, the forehead, relaxing the facial muscles, Relaxing the jaw and the tongue. Relaxing the throat. Relaxing the shoulders. Relaxing the arms. Relaxing the hands. Relaxing the shoulder, belly. Relaxing the hips. Relaxing the thighs. Relaxing the knees. Relaxing the shins and the calves. Relaxing the ankles. And relaxing the toes. Taking a full breath in through the nose. And silently sighing it out through your mouth. Feeling fully relaxed in your body. I'll leave you in silence for the next few minutes before I bring you back. We'll close our practice. Begin to gently bring the awareness back to the body, to the breath. wiggling the fingers and toes. When you're ready, rolling onto one side of the body. The knees can be stacked on top of one another. One of your arms underneath the head for support. And when you're ready, gently pressing in to one arm, coming into a seated position. Keeping the eyes closed. Hands can either stay on your lap, or the palms of the hands can come together at the center of your chest. Taking a moment of gratitude for being patient and showing up for yourself tonight, today, or whatever day you're tuning in. Taking that gratitude for carving out the time to take care of yourself. Closing our practice, we'll drop our chin slightly towards our chest, giving a slight bow for respect for all of those who tuned in, no matter where they were, what time, towards me, for being patient with our technical difficulties tonight. Thank you again for tuning in. This week's journal prompts for tonight is, what do I do? What are my practices when things don't go my way? Very fitting for tonight. What are some things that I do that make me feel better when things don't go my way? We have class again on Monday. Fingers crossed. I feel better. Drink lots of water. We're going to be doing sun salutations to make up for this past week. Don't worry, we're not like jumping to 80. We're going to do 60. I'm very thankful for you all for understanding. For me, myself missing Monday's class, I was feeling under the weather. I still am feeling a little under the weather, but should be feeling hopefully 100% by Monday. If you have any questions, please reach out to me on email, or reach out to anyone on the VYP team, Veterans Yoga Project team. If you have anything else for me, again, please reach out. I will see you all on Monday. Drink lots of water. Bye, everybody.